yes, you are in a community. Maybe your family's incredible. You have great friends, but sometimes you're always adapting. You're always in a place where you feel like you're adapting to one side of the culture and other side. And I believe our idea is, when you say show up whole, we want people to show up whole. We want people to show up as who they are.
Right.
Doing.
Do we say welcome back or welcome to?
We say all the above. It's welcome. It's we miss you. It's hello. It's all the above. Moroi.
Do you want to
Makadi. Yeah.
to the Culture Talk Collective? I am one of your co-hosts, Christina.
And I go by Pai or Pai or Paidiwanashe.
But you prefer
Pai.
Pai.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's really exciting to be back. Started this podcast in 2019. I think the iteration of the idea was like maybe 2017, 2018. And then we finally hit record, published it in 2019. We had a podcast for 2 years, and I really loved it. I was looking back at our episodes, and I think we had some really beautiful conversations, some really valuable content.
We were babies.
We were teeny tiny podcast babies.
Yeah.
And even, technically we were really still newlyweds. And then we went dark for 5 years.
Yeah. Life happened, right?
It got a little busy. And we had 3 babies in 5 years. And so it's really hard to podcast and record when you've got a revolving door of children.
Yeah.
But we never really gave up the dream of our podcast.
Yeah, the podcast was just an avenue, right? It was just a platform to be able to share our story, to be able to meet amazing people that have the same story like us, that are intercultural relationships. But it became a community. It was more than just us speaking. It became people reaching out, wanting to have deeper conversations. So I think that's why it was, we continue to have that the desire, even in the midst of all the changes we've had with children. And I know kids is an excuse because we now have children, but I think, 2020 to 2023 was tough for everybody. Pandemic, we had a lot of social justice stuff going on. So I think we were also just trying to navigate the world, living in America, being an intercultural couple, all the above. In the midst of all that, I think we've also evolved. Yeah. We've transformed. We're a little bit more, I don't know. I don't want to say mature. I'm not saying we weren't mature before, but I think we are more grounded in creating a future that we want for our children.
I definitely think that over the past 5 years, I know that I have matured, and I really hope that I can always look back in 5 years and say, I would approach this conversation differently or area because, my background is as an educator. And so I have this mindset of being a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
And part of that, every day we get to learn and grow. And so I really hope that I don't have a problem saying that I have grown over the past 5 years because I have. I think I've grown in the way that I would approach conversations. I've grown in perspectives.
Yeah.
I have grown in what I give my attention to.
That's good.
I think. And I know that for me, when in 2020, when things just got really, like the cultural conversation got really tough around race relationships, I was so passionate because I was pregnant with our firstborn son. And so I really took a lot of things seriously and to heart. And some of that I will blame on pregnancy and postpartum hormones because things just felt so different. And now that I'm 5 years into being a mom of now 3 boys, I think that phone closer.
Yeah. Sorry, listeners and watchers.
Okay.
We're rusty.
Yeah. So I think that in the 5 years since then, I have become, like you said, more grounded in the way that I am passionate about building a world that I want our kids to live in.
Yeah. I think that's why we're back.
Yeah.
We have an incredible family, which is intercultural. We're doing the best we can. You know, we live in the United States. We're in America. I'm Zimbabwean, and our goal, our desire is to create an integrated family
Yeah.
where we truly can say it's a Zimbabwean American family, not just in name,
Mm-hmm.
but in practice.
Yeah.
And that's why we're back, because we've talked to many friends of ours that want that. They want the tapestry, but it takes work. And we're excited to share a little bit about kind of the reinvention, the transformation of the Culture Talk Collective. That it's going to be more than a podcast, right? It's going to be a community. It's going to be a place where people can feel like they belong. So I'm excited.
Let's start a little bit late, because you alluded to our community. You alluded to kind of where we are going, because we've been simmering on the Culture Talk Collective for the past 5 years. Even though we weren't recording, we've done a lot of, you especially have done a lot of deep work in the sense of like creating the kind of world that you want to live in and figuring out how to provide that for other people.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we started our podcast, our tagline was uncovering the beauty of intercultural relationships. And I really think that that was so appropriate for that season and that mindset that we were in. And now our vision has shifted as an intercultural couple who's been married for almost 9 years, and as parents. And something that I really love about how we have intentionally built our community is that we do have a pretty intercultural community where we live.
Yeah.
And we recognized that with that intercultural community, we were finding spaces that we really felt like we could breathe. We felt like we could belong. And so with the Culture Talk Collective, as we are relaunching, we kind of have a new vision.
Yeah.
And we're really excited to share that vision with our listeners. Do you want to say it, or do you want me to say it?
I want you to say it, because I felt like, I don't know if it's appropriate for you to share the story that you shared, but the story that you shared earlier impacted me, because it really confirms why we're doing this again. So I'd love for you to share, if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Okay, so the Culture Talk Collective, we really desire for this to be a place where we are weaving a tapestry of intercultural families who can show up whole, live with purpose, and celebrate who they are together in community. And I think some of these words are so important that I really want to pull out. This is the English teacher in me. I want to pull these words out. Showing up whole, living with purpose, and celebrating in community. And the reason why those are so important to me is I had an experience recently in which someone said something that really did not align with my heart and my soul. And rather than have a conversation with the person in that moment, because I have learned one way I've grown over the past 5 years is I'm letting things sit with me for a little while before I respond. And so I did not respond immediately in that moment, but I looked around where I was and I saw, you know, I am a white woman, right? But I looked around and I just saw that I was in a space where there were only white people. But even though there were only white people in that space I was in,
which is not a problem.
Yeah, that's really important to note.
Yeah.
But I could tell that there was a difference in my mindset. And in that moment, because nobody else spoke up, I thought, am I the only person who has this different mindset? And so rather than communicate with anyone in that space, I actually reached out to another gal who is married to a Ghanaian. And I said, hey, I had this experience and this really broke my heart. And I just wanted to share this with you so that so that you could give me a word of encouragement. And this is one of my dear friends. We became friends in 2020. And something I really value about her is that she has kids that are older than me. She's been married longer than I have been. And she's been a really big source of encouragement and comfort. And also, like, we might not be aligned in every single thing, but we do have this intercultural relationship that we do understand. Like, there are nuances to intercultural relationships,
Hmm.
and the way that, because of our relationship, like, my mind has been, like, my perspective and my worldview is different than it would have been had I married someone who grew up in the United States
Yeah.
and lived in the United States, like, grew up in my same town. I mean, and one thing I was talking to our sister-in-law about is, she said, like, intercultural relationships can happen even with someone who lives in the North and who lives in the South.
Yeah.
I mean, you can both be white people and be in an intercultural relationship. So it's not just because you're a Black Zimbabwean American
Hmm.
and I'm a white American that this makes this an intercultural relationship. Like, there's multiple ways that intercultural relationships can happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And, you sharing how in that moment, yes, you're with these friends, you had a different mindset, or another way to put it is maybe a different viewpoint or a different experience, and you felt like you couldn't look to the left or to the right to say, hey, someone actually understands.
Mhm.
I think a lot of intercultural families feel that way sometimes,
Yeah.
to where, yes, you are in a community, maybe your family's incredible, you have great friends, but sometimes you're always adapting. You're always in a place where you feel like you're adapting to one side of the culture and other side. And I believe our idea is, when you say show up whole, we want people to show up whole. We want people to show up as who they are,
Right.
because we all have our own personal experiences and viewpoints. And I think that's why this is important. Because there's been, I've had experiences where most of my life in America has been
Right.
adapting to whatever culture I am. And that's why I sound this way. Because when I moved to America at 10 years old, I was like, I don't want people to think that I'm from somewhere else. We want people to show up whole, to live with purpose, and celebrate who they are together in community. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to share how that's going to work out. I'm excited to share about topics
Yeah.
that we've gone through over the past few years. So if you are a listener and you've listened to our old stuff, we may do some 2.0s. We may do some reruns, not because the old episodes are bad, but it's because we have 9 years of marriage and 2 years of dating under our belt, and we have a new perspective. We want to provide you resources. So not just from us, but these resources can be from people that we call mentors and other intercultural families, people that are practitioners. But most importantly, it's a community. Like, I thrive off of being in a place where I can feel like I can be myself. I can learn from other people and have a good time, have fun. And you had mentioned that even though we had a hiatus with the podcast, we did not have a hiatus with the way that we're living our life.
Right.
We still had dinner parties, get together. We were so intentional about our in-person community. So I think that just confirms that this is something that's in us. It's not something that we're just doing for fun. That's a little bit of laying the groundwork. I think I'd like for us to talk a little bit about journeys.
Well, let's do Q&A. So,
Mhm.
and we can just bounce back and
Yeah,
forth.
let's do that.
And I'm gonna adjust my microphone again in case it gets, like, noisy,
Yeah,
because
it's
it
okay.
keeps, like, falling down. Um, but anyway, so Pai, you alluded earlier that you were 10 years old when you moved here.
Yeah.
I heard from a friend last night. She's also an immigrant, and she still has her accent. And I overheard her telling someone that if you move before you're 14, you lose your native accent.
Mhm.
But then if you move after 14, you still keep your accent. And so I'm a little sad that you've lost your accent, because it's really fun
But
to,
what accent do I have?
you're Shona. You speak Shona. That's what you speak
Yeah.
with your family. But your accent is like an African British accent, Zimbabwean British accent.
Well, currently, what accent do I have?
Currently you have an ambiguous accent. No one can tell where you're from.
Borderless.
Borderless. Did you come up with that term?
I did.
I love that. You're really good at coining some terms. I think you just need to put a little like TM next to that.
Yeah.
Trademark that. But anyway, so you moved when you were 10 years old. Talk me through, number one, when did you learn that you were moving to the U.S.? And then number two, talk me through that transition of moving to the U.S. because you didn't move straight to where we live now. You kind of like moved to one city and then to another city.
Yeah. So I had an incredible upbringing. Born in the capital city of Harare. Had incredible parents. Had a great church community that was part of. That was a staple of our upbringing. We didn't just go to church Sundays. It was Sunday nights. It was midweek. A lot of my friends were from church. So the first 10 years of my life were great. You know, even though I'm in Zimbabwe, Africa, I was still exposed to a multicultural community. At that time, there were still, I'll say a decent amount of diversity within our circles. The school I went to in the second half, before I moved, was a majority, I'll say 50-50 majority school with a lot of, expats and so on and so forth. Our church, we had friends from the U.S. So from a young age, it's not like I felt like my entire world was just monocultural. I was exposed. But also, the education system in Zimbabwe is great in that you're able to be taught about the world. So I grew up knowing about cultures, about different cities. So I felt like I knew a lot about even America. But within that, I'm still Zimbabwean. So Shona was my first language growing up, but the language of school and business is English.
Okay.
So I'll speak both.
Is that why you speak such great English?
Yes. Let's not go there. Let's not go there. Let's not go there. But so
I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you.
So happy you got to come to America.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Anyway, but within that, a Zimbabwean family, Zimbabwean or even African family, the dynamics are a little different with children. And that being said, typically, if your parents say something, you just do it. There's no really asking why. You know how our kids ask why all the time?
Right.
I never ask why.
Constantly.
It's just part of the culture. You just know that it's your parents. So my parents shared with us that we were moving to the United States. And I'm pretty sure it was like literally a few days before. It was like a Thursday or Friday. And they're like, we're going to America. And we're like, yay, we're going to America. And then we're like, and how long? For a long time. We're so excited. But the point is, when I looked back, I realized that we did not have much time to actually like process to say that we're going for a while. But we're still excited because it's America. Everyone wants to go to America. So we pack our bags and we say bye to some of our friends. I didn't get to say bye to all my friends because it was so quick. I believe I went to church one Sunday. I don't know if I went to school before. Maybe it was the weekend. But it was really quick. And we couldn't take everything with us, obviously. And the few things I took, the most prominent thing that I took was my cricket bat. I know I've told this story before.
This story is heartbreaking.
But one of my friends, I'm still friends with him and he's an American. He gave me a cricket bat in Zimbabwe because cricket was my first love as a sport. Not soccer, it was cricket. And I took that cricket bat with me because it's something that I had committed to improving and I was passionate about. So I packed in the bag. We moved to the United States with my cricket bat. We live in North Carolina. So we landed in North Carolina and we moved in the January. Yeah. This is a few months after 9/11. So that entire season is scary.
Right.
The world like saw what happened in 9/11. So we move to North Carolina. We leave the beautiful summer of Zimbabwe and we enter the tundra of North Carolina. So we land and it's freezing and, our family, we had family here already and they greet us and we begin that transition process. And the excitement wears off when you begin to realize that you are in a new place. You begin to realize that you have to begin to adapt. My dad actually hadn't come. My dad's visa, I didn't know this until when I became an adult. My dad's visa was denied. So my mom came with us, just me and my siblings. Did you know this?
I don't know if I knew this.
Yeah, his visa was denied, but we still, out of faith, went to the U.S. and then he was able to, I think it was approved later that month. So my dad came about 9 months later. So the first 9 months was just my mom and my two siblings, us boys. And I'm sure it was a lot for her.
Yeah.
But for us, like, we were just trying to adapt. We were trying to find a way to make it work. So speaking of the cricket bat, in the midst of all the change, I had that cricket bat. And when we arrived, I realized, wait a second, people don't play cricket in the United States of America.
I literally
They don't play
cannot
cricket.
listen to this story without getting tears in my eyes.
No.
Because, like, you came over bringing something that you had, like, you knew would open avenues for connection with other people.
Yeah. It was part of who I was. And I realized that it was baseball, basketball. So the cricket bat was now relegated to playing at home. So I'm so thankful for my brothers because we would play cricket outside in our backyard. But I knew that, with friends or at school, people wouldn't understand. But a few months later, that cricket bat, I don't know what happened to it. It was traded for basketball. It was traded for a football. The reason why that analogy, that story is important to me is that I began to realize that I traded part of myself that I was passionate about for the purpose of assimilation. And you can call it, that could be negative or not negative, but a decade, almost 2 decades later, I come back and I realize that, that's part of what I miss. I stopped watching cricket. I barely know the rules now. But speaking of, living in North Carolina, I'm in 5th grade. It's January. So you go to school, you begin to realize that you sound different. You have an accent. You grew up in post-colonial Zimbabwe where you still use British terms, like instead of saying bathroom, you say, can I go to the toilet? You say bonnet. There's so many words. And you realize kids are mean, man. Kids are mean.
Especially at that age. Like, middle school is the armpit of the education.
Yeah.
I can say that because I taught middle school, so I can confirm.
So because of that, I realized I don't want to be, I don't want to be pointed out. I don't want to stick out. But the thing is, my name, Pai and Christina Mushayamunda, no matter what I do, it'll always stick out.
Yeah.
I'll always be Zimbabwean, which I'm totally fine with now. But I decided that I wanted to sound American so that I don't stick out like a sore thumb. So I did a good job of adapting my accent.
Did you do that by watching TV and like mimicking the accents on TV that you watched? Did you just listen to friends at school?
Listening to friends at school.
Yeah.
It wasn't an intentional practice of I'm going to, I was 10, 11 years old. Mm-hmm. And I think my accent it took about 2 years. Yeah, it was just spending time with friends. But one of the things about my accent and the way I speak, and I'm sure many third culture kids, and third culture kid essentially is someone that is born in one native country and they grow up in another native country or a host country or a parent's country, and you grow up, you begin to essentially create a third space, a third culture, to where you don't really feel like you belong in your birth country, but you don't really feel like you belong to your host country. So you kind of create a third culture, which is a blend of both.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can adapt really well to both cultures. So that's what's happened. That's what's happened to me, where if I'm among Americans, I can sound American or like this. But if I'm among like other Zimbabweans or Africans, I modify the way I speak. So you've heard me.
So you code switch even like between white Americans, black
Black Americans.
Americans, and
Yeah.
then Africans, and even people who are like from the Caribbean islands.
Yeah.
You
Because when we first moved to America, we lived in a black
okay.
American neighborhood. So that was my formative experience from 10 until 16. I
Yeah.
lived in a black neighborhood. Went to a black school Monday through Friday. But then on Sundays, my parents, we went to a white church.
Okay.
So I had this dual experience, even in the United States, where I'm in a black. So I began to realize, okay, the United States does have some nuance when it comes to race relations. Like, why is it that we live on one end of the town in a black neighborhood and we're going to a white church? I began to kind of realize like all these nuances. Um, yeah,
And then so after you moved to North Carolina, then your dad moved you guys to Tennessee
yeah,
for him to continue his education.
yeah,
Which I say continue his education, but I mean he was well educated in Zimbabwe, and then
yeah, yeah.
when he moved to the US he had to start again as a college student, and then
We
which
just kept
is a
stacking them
whole
degrees.
conversation we could have
Yeah.
at a later date. But where did you move after? What was your experience like after you left North Carolina?
Oh yeah. So North Carolina is still the South, right? It's the Southeast.
Right.
But then we moved to Tennessee. And I like to say that's a whole different culture shock because
I bet.
my experience, and this is Eastern Tennessee to be
Yeah.
specific, so the Appalachian region.
You were
the
not going to
mountains.
Memphis, which would have been
No,
probably
no.
a little bit closer to your experience in North
Yeah.
Carolina.
So my entire world to where we began, we were settled finally in North Carolina, and we felt like, okay, like we've got friends, we've got the church community, and for me it was still normal. I can show up and still be Pai on Sundays at the white church because I had amazing friends. I still have good friends from that church, but also I had good friends from my black school. Like I felt like I was good at being in the middle. And then we moved to Tennessee, and then it's like everything just gets flipped to where it was white Americans everywhere. I became the extreme minority. And it was kind of nice to not always be a minority in North Carolina, right? A racial minority. So yeah, it was a whole different culture shock to where I'm typically the only black guy in whether it be class or church, but it was still an interesting experience in that the friends that, the place where I moved,
Right.
because my dad is a pastor, so it was a seminary. I'm so thankful for that seminary because that seminary accepted students from all over the world. So that place in Eastern Tennessee was like a little intercultural village, a little multicultural village. We had Brazilians, we had people from Chile, we had Zimbabwe, we had Zambia, we had Kenya.
Yeah.
So that was like home. But then obviously when you go to school and you go to church, it's
Pretty
obviously
monocultural.
So I love that space because I began to realize and appreciate the beauty of culture at that space. But I meet my friends, in high school when we moved. I'm a junior, so it's a new place, and I am, I'm just like, oh, here we go again. I'm tired of always moving because we moved across the continent to a new country, and now it's to another city. And I had some friends, my now friends that came up to me and, and heard about me. And it was so cool because this friend circle is a little bit diverse as well. You have an white American, you have a Korean American guy that's part of that group, a guy that had Canadian roots. So that became my circle.
Yeah.
Even in the midst of a school that maybe is 99%, white American.
Right.
Like the diverse kids came to me. And the credit I give it to is that seminary, but also soccer, because that's what I played. They knew that I played soccer, so everybody's, oh yeah, we've got this African kid
That is so
that's playing
funny.
soccer. So they all came to me like, oh, we're in the soccer team. So I had a great experience. Obviously, it was still tough because I began to realize that this race race relation stuff is actually pretty real.
Yeah.
In North Carolina, I was insulated because I lived mostly in a majority black place, but I began to realize there's certain places where I live, you don't want to be there
Yeah.
at night, you know?
I mean, even when we were dating, I remember I was training for a half marathon, so you ran with me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one time we stopped running. We like finished our mileage, and so but we still had to walk back to your house,
Mm-hmm.
and we held hands walking through the downtown area. And I mean, like I could the vibe on the streets shifted
Yeah.
because we were holding hands.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you, I can keep going, or, but I think we should take a pause here and talk about you, and then
Okay.
we can talk about our college,
Our integration together. Yeah.
how we met.
Okay.
So I want to hear about your story, but specifically speaking, why don't you share with us about your love for reading?
My love for reading.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
well,
how that applies to us.
yeah, so I have always been a really avid reader. I was actually just talking with my mom about this the other day
Mm-hmm.
because our son is starting to read, which is a very exciting time for me. Um, because and like when our son read his first book to us the other night, I gave him such a big hug and I said, "The whole world is open to you now. It is wide open to you." And I really think that's the power of books because for me, my dad was in the military, so
Mm-hmm.
we moved around quite a bit. I was born in Indiana. We moved to Tennessee for my dad's residency. He's a physician. And then we moved to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. And then after my dad had completed his time, we moved back to Tennessee because they wanted to live somewhere warm and beautiful.
Yeah.
And Tennessee gets all the seasons. We live in a really mountainous, beautiful area.
Get all the seasons in 1 week sometimes.
Right, exactly. And but we moved to what I call the middle of nowhere. I'm like, how did you even find this place, Dad? And I was 10 when we moved there. So um my experience living in this small town was like if you want to watch a small town Netflix show or whatever, like that's probably pretty similar to what my experience was. Like growing up in a small town, like we would go to church on Wednesdays, go to church on Sundays. When we were able to start driving on Wednesdays after youth group, we would go eat at the Mexican
Yeah.
restaurant. It was a majority white area. Um there were Black Americans who lived there, and then once they built a medical school in the area as well. And so that also brought a little bit more international diversity through the
Yeah.
teachers and the families there. But for the most part, everywhere I looked was white American like me. And so I gained access to understanding of other cultures and people groups through reading. I read I read a lot of books that I could access from my school library. My personal interests was with books, and I really think that my reading helped me to em- empathize and understand experiences that were different than my own. And then, in addition to that, I grew up in a Baptist church, and Baptist churches are really focused on missions, and so I did go on quite a few mission trips that were around the world. I mean, on the eastern side of the world, or western side of the world, excuse me. Um, and you know, for a lot of people, we can look back and see like a lot of those mission trips are probably more like volunteerism rather than like going in, and like our understanding of missions has changed
Mm-hmm.
as we've gotten older. But I do think too, like traveling to Peru, and then I had been to Haiti and to the Dominican Republic. Like I was able to see a lot of the world
Mm-hmm.
outside of the life I lived every day. And I mean, even when we went to Zimbabwe, you were impressed at like
Your
how
adaptability.
adaptable I was.
Yeah.
And I will attribute it to traveling. And my parents were really fantastic about um, showing me the world
Mm.
through travel, through like books, and also like just the conversations as a family. Like my family was so open to relationships with people who didn't look like us. And I think that's really beautiful. Like we have a very international family on my family side, and that's the way that my family has embraced the international people who have married into or joined our family.
Yeah.
Really speaks volumes for me about how I was raised.
Yeah. Do you feel like your faith also has influenced the way that you perceive the world, culture, relationships?
Yes, I do think that the way that I read the Bible, it does make me more, I lean a lot more towards like having compassion and empathy towards people who have different life experiences and different cultural experiences than myself. I look a lot at, you know, um, I'm like totally blanking on scripture right now.
Mm-hmm.
Cut this part out. I don't have my Bible memorized. Just kidding. But yeah, I definitely do think that my faith informs the way that I perceive other people. Like I really do believe that, like, I think, that there's that age old adage, what would Jesus do? Or the golden rule of like, treat others how you want to be treated. Like, I think that approaching intercultural relationships comes with approaching people with curiosity and
Mm-hmm.
seeking to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires humility, which is something that we as Christians can mirror from Jesus.
Yeah. And I'm sure at this point you all know that we love Jesus, we're Christians. I believe, like, the mark of a person that loves Jesus understand that we've been created in God's image, and that
Yeah.
there's a reason why we have different ethnicities and cultures and
Mm-hmm.
tribes. And it's meant to be a beautiful tapestry, an image of who God is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not careful, if we live, and we can do this because it's a natural human experience, it's not wrong, but if we're not careful, if we just live with one cultural lens, one monocultural lens, it may inform the way that we see the world. When the world, it doesn't just work in one lens, it
Right.
works in multifaceted lens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why you sharing about your reading experience and your traveling experiences and your faith and your family helped with that. So that's awesome. So you've grown up, great family.
Mm-hmm.
You go to college and you're just trying to study and make a living for yourself, and then you see this attractive Black African man.
Here.
What happens?
Do you want me to tell them what I first noticed about you ever? The very first thing I noticed about you?
No. No.
The second thing I noticed about you was your smile.
Yeah, we met
We did meet at college.
At college, yeah.
But we didn't start dating while you were in college.
Yeah, it was after.
But I do remember walking over to my friend's apartment, and you were sitting in the front of your friend's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to walk past you guys. You were with some friends, and I was like, "Hey, who are you?" And you're like, "My name is Pai and Christina Mushayamunda." And I was like, "That's a long name."
It's the best pickup line ever.
Yeah, it really was. I decided I wanted that name, so. But yeah, and I remember thinking, like, that's a long name and you have a really nice smile. And that's about all I thought for about 2 years, until you started favoriting my tweets on the Twitter, which is now called X. But
that before that happened, you started going to my church.
Well, no.
Yeah.
I didn't go to your church until after.
Tweets?
You're right. Yes, the tweets. I'm sorry. I was thinking about when we met. I wasn't at your church when we met, but I did start going to your church, and we were in Sunday school together, and I was like, wow, he is so wise and handsome. And like, you wore this like light blue shirt that you used to wear all the time, and I was like, he just looks really good on that. And I told my friend I really admired you, and I said, I am not in a place to date anyone, but if I did, I would want to date and marry him. Like, I literally remember saying I wanted to marry you because I
You
was
said
like,
that?
I did,
I know
because
that.
you had such wisdom and like such gentleness, and you're charismatic, and you had a great smile. You still have a great smile. Like, I think if I think about like back to those days, I think about your smile a lot.
Yeah.
And so she was like, well, why don't you ask him out for coffee? And I'm like, no, ma'am. I'm going to have to just sit this one out and wait until to see if he's interested in me or wants to pursue me.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, I was training for a half marathon. And so I spent a lot of that time creating tweets in my head because I like to be funny. I was a blogger at the time. And so I was like trying to communicate through Twitter a lot.
Yeah.
And you liked a lot of my tweets.
Yeah.
And
So I think the college experience was great for me. I loved, like, I'm a big proponent of the college experience because, like, especially if you're in number one, it was a liberal arts school, and I just
right.
love the arts. But it's a place where, again,
Also very sexy.
Thank you.
That you love the arts.
Yeah. It's a place where, hey, my parents listen to this. Be careful of the words.
We have 3 kids.
Yeah.
Who are with your parents right now.
Yes. Hey, friends.
This is what your blush looks like.
I'm blushing. I'm blushing big time. This is where the conservative side of my African nature comes out.
Okay.
So college is great because you have people from all over the world in one place.
Yeah.
And I had friends. I mean, I was on the soccer team, but I had friends everywhere. I mean, you knew that. I had
You're very
tons
popular.
of friends.
Everyone loved you.
And I think college is a good place where you can learn about new ideas and you can wrestle these ideas, and it's a safe space. And honestly, most people in college, you're very inclusive anyway. Most college age people are inclusive. They are open to ideas and you experiencing new people. And I loved it. But it's such a unique experience because we're still living in the South.
Right.
So like literally as you like drive off, it's like it may be an area that's maybe like, hey, what's this black guy doing here? Right. But then you go back into your bubble. Disneyland bubble, you know? So, and because I'm Zimbabwean, the way that I grew up, you know, my parents would say, we can't, you know, essentially dating wasn't even part of the conversation. You know, you dated until you were older, you know? So like, I didn't really date in high school or anything like that, you know?
Right.
The culture's always like, focus on the studies, make sure, you know? So I kind of paved the way for that since I'm the oldest. And, you know, even before we started dating, I think part of what informed who I wanted to marry, I began to really think culturally.
Yeah.
Because my parents began to talk about that. And I remember when we were in high school, my dad specifically, sat us down and we had the talk, the intercultural talk.
Okay.
And my dad was like, we are in this country and we understand that you guys, it's a diverse place and you may marry a woman that's white or a different race. And my dad was like, that's fine.
Yeah.
That is okay. And he shared about why it's important to marry someone that above all loves the Lord. You know, God says he looks at the heart, the man looks at the outward appearance. But my dad set that stage by saying, hey, it is okay if you marry someone of a different race. Like, that is fine. And that's even before I started dating. This is when we're younger. And that was important for me, which meant that when I began to think about potential options for dating and for marriage, I wasn't relegated to a race because I had that acceptance from my parents. But even before that, my parents are also intercultural in a way. My mother is from Zambia, my dad's from Zimbabwe, but I'm actually third generation intercultural relationship because her dad and her mom was intercultural, and then my great grandparents as well. So
The stage set for you.
I've had the stage set for me, and my mom would tell stories of her immigration journey. She didn't know Shona until she was 18 or 19, and she had to adapt. So I was ready for that, but prior to meeting you, and you know this, I dated someone else, a white American, and again, you were insulated at, nope, I name dropped the school that I went to. Maybe
We'll blur that
we'll
out.
blur that out
We'll beep
because
it
we'll
so
beep it.
people think that we're.
Yeah. Yep,
People think.
exactly. But the school that I went to, the person, yeah, it ended, and part of it was due to intercultural issues
Yeah.
and interracial issues because we lived in a bubble. And I remember walking down the main road at our college after that, and literally I told God, God, I do not want to marry a white woman. I'm done.
And then here I.
Yeah,
My
I literally was
story.
like, I was like, you know what? I just want to marry a person that looks like me, that, from same culture, whatever, because it was hard. That was an introduction to how the world approaches at times intercultural, interracial relationships, and I don't want any of it. And I didn't see anybody for a while, and then you came and you blew me out of the water. And just a bit of advice, friends: don't ever tell God or whoever, higher power, but yeah, don't tell God that you don't want to do something, because typically that's just going to happen, but in a good way. Because for you, when I'm around you, you accepted every part of who I was, right? And you were okay with me being multifaceted. Like, you were curious about my name, what it meant, my culture, my family. I didn't have to adapt to be around you. And I feel I feel me like myself when I'm around you. And you help authenticate, you help feel like I can practice my culture in a healthy way. When I say culture, I mean being Zimbabwean American. And we can talk more about that. The reason I wanted to mention the dating experience is I came with a little bit of initial apprehension because of like, hey, I'm a black African at that point before I became American, and you're white. Is this okay? And how did you approach that?
Yeah. So, just the comment though makes me think back to why we are doing the Culture Talk Collective,
Mm,
because that I approached our relationship. We want to be in relationships with others,
yeah,
creating that space
yeah,
for them, to be able to have those relationships with other intercultural families like that, where you do just get to bring yourself.
yeah.
And when you showed up to meet my dad, actually told my sister at the time, he's like, I think this is the guy she's going to marry.
That's
And
awesome.
like the day that he met you, before he even met you, just the way that I spoke of you.
Seriously?
Yeah, like
Mm,
the way that I spoke of you, my dad knew that you were the one for me, which was really fun. But I curiosity is what enabled me to embrace your background
mhm.
and your culture, is because like I just wanted to know you. Like, I remember meeting your parents. I'm like, well, I don't want to call your parents by their first names. So how how would you prefer to be called? Okay, how would you say it in Shona? And they taught me, how to like to refer to your parents as my pai at the time.
Mm,
Uh, my father's pai. And I I just that curiosity and that desire to make you feel at home, I think is so important in a healthy relationship. You really want the other person to feel at home in your relationship with them. And I knew that for us to be a thriving couple, it wasn't just going to be like, oh, cool, this is my boyfriend, he's from Zimbabwe. It was more like, this is my, my boyfriend from Zimbabwe. I had to learn about what life was like for you growing up in Zimbabwe. What was that experience moving to the US? How did that shape you? And how can I make you feel at home here in the United States? Some ways that we did that as we dated and got married was through food. Just making hamburgers every week, but making Zimbabwean food. And as we got towards like marriage, like incorporating Zimbabwean traditions and marriage and in our family. And so I think
Yeah.
that, yeah, I put it back to the curiosity.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of your dad, we had a talk before officially dating because that was important to your dad. Your dad wanted to talk to a potential suitor, I guess you'd call it, or whoever. So I guess technically we went on dates and we courted, and then I talked to your dad before, and I mentioned, you know, would it be an issue for me being a black person, an African person? And it was so nice to hear your dad be like, no, like my family is gonna welcome you. We value you for who you are. Which is nice because honestly, one of my conditions was if your dad had said no or this is an issue, I would have walked. I don't know if I told you that, or maybe it was just in my head. Yeah, yeah, I was gonna walk. I was gonna be like, sorry, I can't do this because the way that I viewed dating was you date to marry, and if I'm not going to have a good relationship with my potential in-laws, then that's a lifetime. That's a lifetime decision. The way
Because you
that
make family.
yes, you do marry family, and sometimes not everyone has a good family structure because it's not a perfect world. Sometimes you have in-laws that are just not nice, or there's some struggles that you're having. That's not, that makes sense because all no one has a perfect setup, but at the end of the day, you do marry the family, which means that you're gonna journey along with them. So for me, my boundary was if they were not gonna accept my culture, my race, like part of my who I was, then I was going to move on because it wasn't worth at that point. I said it wasn't worth fighting, but it's a lot of work, and um, I really appreciate your dad. I just wanted to say that. So we start dating. Um, do we want to talk a little bit more about the way we approach the dating relationships, or maybe we should just go on and talk about our marriage? What do
Well,
you think?
I think for time's sake,
Yeah, we can go on
we
forever.
could do like a whole book probably, but I think for time's sake, let's move that to another episode. Let's like
Yeah,
just very bird's eye overview of marriage and parenthood and how that's going to inform
yeah.
how we're moving forward in the Culture Talk Collective. Because
So I have a fast forward then.
okay,
We date for a couple years. We get engaged, and we have an incredible intercultural Zimbabwean American wedding. We have 300 people that show up.
sorry, no, we have 400
Oh,
people show up.
400 people that show up. We have Zimbabwean elements in it. We have, your typical American elements in it. It was a beautiful day. And to this day, we have people that talk about our wedding. And the reason why I think about that a lot is it gives me a picture of what heaven will look like one day.
Hmm.
You have people from different places, and we all were just like celebrating.
11 countries represented at our wedding.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah. So, so that was the initiation, right, into marriage, an incredible wedding, and then the journey of marriage begins,
Mm-hmm.
and the journey of marriage is, and part of having a healthy marriage is having a healthy community that supports um, you all as a couple.
Like I said at the top of the episode, like after we got married, we started having a lot of conversations about what motivated us to start this podcast.
Mhm.
One thing that we really specifically prayed for was that we had couple that mentor us that was interracial, and the Lord provided that, and that was really special in that season to have a couple. But we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we had an even further component of having like an interracial and while that didn't necessarily that couple did not present themselves to us, just an amazing real life. And that is, like we said at the top of the episode, one reason why we want to bring, we have several intercultural couples. We've gotten to celebrate their weddings with them. And I have relationships with the wives. And I think that's something that we've recognized that for,
Yeah.
for a community. And so I would love it, as we close out the episode, if you could just kind of preview what we want to move forward with in the Culture Talk Collective. Like, yes, we're still going to have this podcast component, but in the coming months, we have something that's particularly important.
Yeah. I'm excited because we have taken the time to be intentional about, what kind of community do we want to create. One aspect is, yes, we have viewers, we have listeners, and that's a one-way relationship. But where transformation happens is an authentic community. So we're building authentic community. We'll share with you more about that in the next episode about what that is going to look like. And if you remember, our purpose is to weave a tapestry of intercultural couples that can show up whole, that can live with purpose, and celebrate who they are in community. So that's the second component, right? We're going to talk about what does it look like to live in purpose. There's been the beauty of like our life is that we've been intentional, and I like to think in terms of frameworks.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of frameworks that you guys will get to learn from, and then also celebrate who we are. I think we need more celebration of our differences now more than ever. We need to be people that see color and celebrate color, that see culture and celebrate culture, because that's how we've been created. We need people that draw out the best in each other. Over the next few months, we will talk about what does it look like to live with purpose. We're going to talk about what it looks like to celebrate together. And then lastly, we have a big favor to ask of you. We are doing a survey where we want to ask 100 people in intercultural relationships what their one biggest challenge is in the relationship. That's it. Just 100 people. And as of this recording, as of now, we have around close to half. We've reached out to some of our connections and friends. So if we're not done yet, we'll put that in the show notes. It'll take you 5 minutes or less. We want you to be part of this survey. And why we're asking for you to do this is so that, number one, we can show you all what is it called? The answers. We want to come up with um, solutions. We want to come up with resources for you. And then also, it's really important. It's going to be anonymous, so don't worry. We're not going to be like, Joey says, I don't like my wife's cooking. So it'll be anonymous. Exactly. There's no seasoning. So that's something that's fun. That's coming up. Please do fill that out. And then we're going to talk to you about this community that we are building currently. Some of you all that are listening are part of that already. So please talk to your friends about it. That's all I'm going to say because we've been talking for a long time.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. If you made it all the way through to the end, you can find us on Instagram at the Culture Talk Collective. You can find our website at culturetalkcollective.com.
Yep.
And that's also where you can find that survey. Please fill it out. Reach out to us on Instagram.
If you're watching this is our first time on camera. So hopefully we'll have more episodes on camera. We've never done it on camera before. So I think we'll have it on YouTube, right?
Yep.
Christina's not looking forward to that.
I'm not looking forward to it. So
yeah.
That's okay though, because, growing and learning and all that.
Yeah. Thank you all. If you haven't liked it, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
Share with friends.
Yeah. Share with friends. Comment. We love y'all. Take care.